this video will show you how to take your planning from a KML to a low-level diagram showing or using QGIS. So the first step is to go to your KML and save it as a KML. I've already done this and I've saved it into my training folder. So this will usually be the QGIS folder, and you will have one version or one file without a version number to link to your QGIS file. Now, to keep track of the changes, we also have a high-level diagram folder, and we have revisions there where we do track the revisions, and we usually, you have to, when the newer revision is saved, you need to overwrite this file without the revision extension just to keep the file revision consistent. Then what you need to do is you need to drag this into QGIS to get started for the first time. You just drag the folder in, or the file, and you link your data. So what you can see here is we have AG polygons. So these polygons I'm just going to move to the bottom, and I'll move them down. Also, we've got an overview and we have urban. So urban you want just above your AGs, your overview you want at the bottom, and AGs you also just want to keep at the or near the bottom. AGs and overview you do not want to display, although you can keep them there for just reference purposes, but just turning them off is a solution. So when you start your layout, what you're going to do is you're going to take or start off with your premise data. So all of this is premise data. I am just going to add them to one group. So group selected, and I will call this premise data, just so that I can keep track of them as premise data. I will move them out of the other group, and then next you will want to move all of your lines above your premise data. So this is your feeders, your drops, your distribution cables. I just like to keep drops at the lower level, then feeders, then links, and then distribution cables. Next is your joints and your poles. You always want to keep poles under your joints, and manholes as well as feeder joints, distribution joints above your poles. So you can just go and organize everything in that order. So I will remove this layer because they have nothing or no data in them, and I will remove this group that we had when we first pulled in the data. So this is how everything looks at the moment. We do have some excess urban here. You won't necessarily have these urbans or these urban when you do your plan. This is just a training video, so it's not a perfect KML. I just used one that I knew had the correct folder structure and was relatively up to date. So first thing I will do here is I will change the urban. So on the urban side, when you click on it, you can right click here and activate layer styling panel, or what you can do is you can press F7. F7 opens or closes the layer styling panel here, and then I will select Irvine here. So this is just a standard template that I've got for Irvine. When you select it, it makes the Irvine transparent and gives it a black outline. Next step is for your AGs. So you can just go down on your AG ramp and change the colors according to the specific AG. I'm not going to do everything, but this will give you an idea of how everything will look. And then next I'm going to do the premise data. So for premise data, you want to select no symbol, and you want to here on label side the single label option, and then I've also added a premise data option here. And then what I'll do is I'll right click, copy style, and I'll just select all style categories, and I'll select all my premise data and paste the style across. So now all my premise data has the same style as the others. So another thing you will want to do is on the AG side, you will also want to add a single label option, and you want to select block label. So the reason for block label on the AG side is because if you look at the attribute table, you will see that the AG has the different blocks that is associated with it inside it, and then that means that your AG labels are actually going to be on the correspond to your, or your block label is going to correspond to your AG. What I'm just going to do here is I'm going to tick show all labels for this layer, and you can see there it's actually the whole block. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to select the name, because the usual description that we've got here is not corresponding to what's actually on the planning once we do submit it. On the planning we usually have a better description of the unit counts and all of the information for that block, but in this case it's only showing a 42, which is just there's 42 units on this block. So I'm just going to name it like that. And then what I'll also do is I'll right click, styles, copy style, and instead of copying all style categories, I'm only going to copy the label segment, and I will paste that across to all of these so that it shows all of the labels for the blocks. Now one thing you notice here is that it seems like the label is a bit offset for some of these. Let me just make sure. Yeah, so everything is looking correct. What you can do is, for instance, block 2, which is this block, the label is showing on block 3, so you can just select the move label option, you click on that label and you select name as the primary key, select OK, and now you can actually move this. And what you'll see is that it's been pinned once it's been moved, so this won't move again if you zoom in or zoom out or change location. If you change the location on or this view on this location, it is going to move out, but as soon as you've got the whole view of this block, it will move to its original pinned location. So I'll just have a look at all of these blocks, and it looks like this block is also not showing correctly. So So what you'll do in the case of setting up a link document is you'll just set up these features beforehand, and then what you also want to do is you want to change the look of all of your cables. So for cables on the drop side, what I'll do is I'll just select bright link here and I'll select drops. I'll select feeder cables, I'll select the feeder cable, and then I'll do the same for link cables and distribution cables. There we go. So all of my cables are now the correct style, but there's still no labels. So labels also just the same thing. You select the distribution cable for distribution cable, link cable for link cable. Let's see, link cables, and then this is the newer one. I did make some changes to these, so I just want to select the correct one. And then feeder cable is the same, single label and feeder cable. Okay, so what I'll do next is I'll just do the pole positions, or well, the pole labels. So pole labels, just select the appropriate pole labels, and same with manholes, manhole number, feeder joints correlate to feeder, and distribution joints correlate to distribution labels. Spurs is spur labels. Let me just see spur label. There we go. Okay, and then pop is a pop label. Then we go and we do single labels, and we select the corresponding labels. Spur joint, I'm just going to select this so that I can more easily see. We just select all and look for my spur. Okay, spur joint, so this is on a new pole. Distribution joints, these are all on new poles as well. Just going to select bright link again so it's easier to find. Distribution on a new pole, feeder joint on a new pole, manholes. These manholes are going to be core manholes, so core manholes, core aggregation handhole. New poles are just poles. Okay, then everything is done. So all the layers have been added here. Now what we need to do next is we need to make sure that we have saved this. So I'm just going to save to the corresponding folder, and this will be named the area or the region with the area and SPG, the corresponding correct label. Then I'll name it QGIS project. Okay, there's no need for revisions on this, although you can create revisions if you feel it necessary. All you need to do now is just save this, and then you will need to go and select the Show Layout Manager. So the method of creating a new overview will then be selecting specific here and then selecting the appropriate template. So we have the QGIS layout template for overview. This is used for overviews only, not for block planning. So we just need to add the appropriate details here. Soweto SPG Zone 01. Okay. So that will create a view like this. Now, what you need to do is you need to select this big X, and that will be this picture at the bottom. And you just need to relink the legend SVG. We are looking into creating a template on QGIS itself. For now we are using the SVG, and once we've got the template we'll just use that in future, and that should allow us to create better smaller block planning and overview files. At the moment it's limited to at least 6 megabytes. So what we have now is we've got our layout overview, and we can see that the map icon is here as well. So all you need to do now is select the map extent from the main canvas. So if you go to your main canvas, you can close this now, and you zoom in to your plan only. So from origin to the extent, what you can do is you can actually just set map extent here, and it will link your map into here. Now there is an issue at the moment that you can see where labels are not following the cables, they're standing out at the edge. The reason being is that the labels on this version of the file is very long. So if we zoom in, we can see that it's at the moment just too long to work. And what I would suggest is, for the overview, we maybe turn off labeling. I think we can do that without having to go and manually turn it off in the labeling section every time, but I'll need to look into that first. For now, I'll just, so you can see, for instance, the label shows all of the detail, and it ends up being really long. And for block planning this will work, because for block planning you'll see all of the detail, but for the overview you really don't need all of this data. So I'll get into block planning now. For now I'll just do the overview quickly. So on this overview you can notice that you have labels here and you have empty labels here. Planning revision is also here, and you can actually edit the planning version here. So every time you have a new version you just delete and you add the next version that you are working on. So for now we'll just keep it at version 1, and the values here need to be added to this project. So this will usually be added already when you do a project or work with a project that's been handed over to Fuma, and just to give you some background on where to add the details, where you can go is settings, options, and under options go to variables here at the left. Then what you'll just need to do is you need to add an option and name it planner, and then the name of the planner, which will be yourself. This will show what the name of the last planner is who worked on this file. Then you need to go to projects and to the project properties. Under project properties you have variables as well, project specific variables. Now what you need to add here, if it isn't added already or you're looking to create your own QGIS project, is you add a variable and you need to add PMO. This will be Brightlink in the case of this file. You also need to add contractor. I'm just going to name it Brightlink because we do not know what the contractor is yet. And then we also have surveyor. And I'll just name this Brightlink as well. Okay. Apply, okay, and if we go back to here, now all of this data is filled in. So I've named it corresponding to BMO survey contractor. Also approval date is added here and planning date is also added automatically. If you need to change this date, you can do it manually. At the moment it's set to give the latest or the current date that you are working on. So the date of the file, or that the file was last changed, will be this date. So next option is to go to properties again, and what you can do is under general, under project title, you can add the name of the project. So this is Glen Zone 2, and if you apply this, it will pull in this data here. Now you do not need to do it this way. You can do it manually in the text box here. So to edit the text box, I'm just going to copy this. You can add the data here, Protea Glen, and this is basically like Visio, where you can just drag in a text box, or you can add a picture, or you can add the map. So if you need to add an additional map to this, say you want an overview in the corner but you want block planning on this side, then you can just add the overview over here, and you can use the move item content option to go to a specific section or zoom in and zoom out. Of course, what you'll want to do here is you'll just want to turn off the labeling for this section. Okay, so let's just get everything back to what we wanted. Going to use the select tool again and select this layer, paste in everything that I had there, and then it's ready to be exported. So to export this, you just go export as PDF, and you select the name, or you choose the name that you want for this. This is version 1 as well, so let's just add v.01 and then save. So on this you also have the option of changing PDF parameters. What you can do is you can add create geospatial PDF as an option, and you can actually turn on or off different layers that you have on your PDF. So you can include or choose to include or make initially invisible any of the layers. So say you only want to display AG1 in the overview, you can make everything initially invisible and display only AG1 and then do the export like that, but still have the option to turn on all of the other layers in the PDF. So what you do now is you just click save, and just need to wait. It does take a bit of time, but it's usually not an exorbitant amount of time. Just need to be a bit patient. I recommend not clicking anywhere in the application while this is running, because I have had a few cases of it crashing on me after I've clicked inside the application before it was finished doing the export. So if we click there, it opens the folder where we have our saved PDF, and if we open it up, we have our PDF here with all of the data. And if you want to see how good the quality is, you can zoom in quite far. Now, one thing I'm noticing is that it's only showing every second address here. The reason for this is that we have, or well, the text for the premise data is too large. So the easy way of fixing this is just going back to Protea Glen here, and under premise data, all you need to do is you need to reduce your font size. So if you want to correspond in your live view as to what it needs to look like, you can actually click on your map and you can see what the scale is on the map overview here that you are taking out. And working on this side, you can use that 1600 value and lock it in. So now if we zoom in, we see that there is or they might actually, whoops, it didn't take it, 1600, so 1600, have it locked in. Okay, so if you zoom in now, it should show you that it actually does not show everything. Now, in order to make sure that you are using the correct size or font size, you can just go to the corresponding AG and reduce the size of the font until it is displayed everywhere where you want it displayed. Now, what you can do is you can also make the font show above these labels. So by doing that, and because the font for the premise is not that intrusive, you can go and show all labels, and then you can make the priority of this label 1 or 2, and the Z index, the higher it is, the higher priority it will take over other labels. So you will be able to see it over your labels when other labels will be in the way. What I'm also aware of is that when we do plan the reach areas, we also try to reduce the size of the icons and the labels, because the urban are actually smaller. Although blocks might be the same size as they would be in a core area, in reach the urban are smaller, and therefore your icons and labels are very close to each other and end up looking not so good. So we try to do everything at a scale of around 1,000, and then if you look, or well, between 1,000 and 500. So if you look at a scale of 500 and lock this here, you'll see that the planning actually looks very neat, and now the size of your labels are actually too small. So what I'll do is I'll just use the default size of 10 again, and everything looks like it's proper size. So what I might suggest is creating a different version for the overview and using smaller icons there, and then using the standard size icons for your block your block planning. Okay, so I'll just show you the block planning layouts quickly. So to do a block planning layout, what you do is you go back to specific, and you will want to select the A3 template. So the A3 template is a bit smaller than the overview template. The overview template correlates to about an A2 size, or in some cases A1, just depending on what size you need. But I'm not going to bother with the name, or well, let me just do the labeling quick. It's not that hard. So VTG is so where to HPG 02. Okay, so what you do is for block planning, you create one per AG, and it will open it up. On this side now, you go to the map section, and you don't really need to use the map section, you need to use Atlas. So the Atlas is a very handy feature in that it goes to a specific polygon and does a section of the layout for that polygon. So a group of polygons will reference the page name, in this case the block number of that AG, and it will do like a snapshot around that one AG to show the planning that correlates to that specific AG. Now, one kind of let's call it a feature, not a bug, is that it doesn't allow you to create your atlas and then immediately preview it. So what you need to do is you need to create your block plan, or your first one, and then link the specific AG to it. Then what you do is you just make sure that everything is saved, and you close this up. You go back to your layout manager, and you just open your block planning again, and now you are able to preview your atlas. What this will show you is how your block layouts will look. So block 2, which is this large one, will look, or the layout will look like this. Block 3 will zoom to block 3, and block 4 will zoom to block 4. So this is very handy for the people on the ground. They have an overview of the whole block and how it relates to the other blocks in the vicinity. And it's also convenient in the sense that all of the info that you put in previously now auto-populates, and you don't need to do anything when you do the export here. So what you can do now is export this atlas as a PDF. We will just save because the naming is already correct, except for a version number. So let's call this version 1, save, and you can then just make sure that everything you want on here is active and save. So as you can see, it shows you a progress bar. It's busy with the first, second, and then the third page. If we look at this now and open this file, you can see there's page 1, AG1, block 2, page 2, AG1, block 3, and then page 4, AG1, AG1, block 4, yes. So I hope this helps, and then if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. Always available to help with these layouts. I might take a bit longer to respond to emails, so if you want to WhatsApp me, I'm perfectly fine with that, or even just a call will be sufficient, and I'll help you as soon as I can.